Madam Secretary, will you take the roll, please?
Certainly. Director Anderson?
Here.
Director Buchanan?
Here.
Director Colson? Here. Director DeWitt? Here. Director Durante? Here. Director Frega? Aye. Director Fuentes? Director Higgins?
Here.
Director Hobson?
Here.
Director Lewis?
Here.
Director McGallis?
Here.
Director Melvin?
Here.
Director Pang? Here. Director Ross? Here. Director Traiani?
Here.
Chairman Dillard?
Present.
We have a quorum of 15 present with 1 absent. 2 of our participants are doing so via telephone and have completed the required paperwork.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your excellent attendance, as always. And our first item for action is item 3A, the approval of the minutes from our meeting on April 20th, 2017. Any questions or comments on those minutes? If not, can I have a motion and a second? Director Pang moves that we adopt those, seconded by Director Blake Hobson. Madam Secretary, will you take the roll on that, please?
Sure. Director Anderson?
Yes.
Director Buchanan?
Yes.
Director Colson?
Yes.
Director DeWitt?
Yes.
Director Durante?
Yes.
Director Frega? Aye. Director Higgins?
Yes.
Director Hobson?
Yes.
Director Lewis?
Yes.
Director McGallis?
Aye.
Director Melvin?
Yes.
Director Pang? Yes. Director Ross?
Yes.
Director Traiani?
Yes.
Chairman Dillard?
Yes.
15 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. Item 4 is our public comment segment of the meeting, and we do not have any scheduled speakers today. So we'll pop right on to item 5, which is the Executive Director's Report. Leanne.
Thank you. So while that's coming up, as you know, and I guess it's become my line because people now quote me, I begin where I always begin. The state owes the RTA $454.8 million of ASA, oh yeah, helps if I actually bring the slide up, ASA, AFA, and PTF combined. The state is 10 months behind on the ASA and the AFA side of the ledger, as well as 11 months behind on PTF. No secret, this is not news to any of you. The cost of this shortfall to date is approaching $1 million at $950,000 for this year alone. We have, that's year to date. We're at what?
Is this a record amount?
Yes, this is a record amount.
Yeah, we're right up there. That's, I don't think we've been this high ever.
The highest I'd seen it was like 380 something. That was like in 2012, and then they had dropped to about 4 months delay in paying us, so that was like good times. And then, and now it's up to 11 months. So yeah.
Yeah. So, and we have maxed out our temporary short-term borrowing capacity. So speaking of Springfield. The Illinois General Assembly spring session is set for adjournment May 31st. Both chambers have set an internal deadline of tomorrow for moving bills out of each chamber. Hence the empty seat of Jeremy's empty seat here. He has been dispatched to Springfield and spends a lot of time down there at this time of the year. The Illinois Senate passed a budget package on Tuesday after a similar plan failed the previous week. The package sets 2018 fiscal budget at $37.3 billion. It relies on more than $5 billion in new tax revenue. That includes increased personal and corporate income tax rates, limited expansion of sales tax base, and closing several corporate loopholes. The package the spending and revenue package actually was passed along party lines, with only Democrats voting for the package. The bills included full PTF and skip bond funding for the RTA, as well as ADA paratransit and reduced fare reimbursement, consistent funding with previous fiscal years. So once again, at least what they've put forward says we'll get the money, but I think we kind of know differently. It is unclear what will actually happen on the House side. The RTA short-term borrowing authorization, i.e. talking about our 400 short-term borrowing ability, passed out of the House, and earlier this week it passed out of the Senate Transportation Committee. It is likely to get onto the Senate floor either today, or the plan is for it to get on the Senate floor today or tomorrow, and hopefully actually pass. It doesn't increase. It continues, basically the 400 sunsets, so it allows us to keep the short-term borrowing capacity at the $400 million, and as the earlier slide just highlighted, we need it. So After returning from a recess on April 24th in Washington, Congress rushed to pass an omnibus appropriations package to fund the remainder of fiscal year 17 to avoid a shutdown. There was a trillion-plus spending package that basically disregarded President Trump's proposal for the reduction in some key programs that we care about, the Capital Infrastructure Grant Program, as well as the total elimination of Tiger grants. So Congress saw otherwise, and the FY 2017 bill includes funding levels for the Tiger program and an increase in FTA grant formulas, funds for transit, an increase in FTA's capital improvement grant program as well. The President has since released his 2018 full budget proposal. I'll go into more detail on that next month, but it kind of follows the same, fleshes out the same cuts that he had proposed in his skinny budget. Finally, on April 27th, the House of Representatives approved a bill repealing the DOT regulation, changing the planning process for MPOs across the country. I won't get into all the details. I can talk to other people about it if you're interested. That was something that CMAP, our MPO, was fighting desperately to get overturned. We supported that, and that was successful, so that was a good thing. On April 26th, Chairman Dillard participated in a Capitol Hill roundtable event with the head of Phoenix Area Transit System, as well as representatives from the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce. The panel discussed the importance of investment in transit and the bipartisan nature of transit spending. The event was organized by the American Public Transportation Association, and Congressman Rodney Davis, Illinois' 13th District, was also there, and he presented opening remarks. Following that roundtable event, the panel members participated in a larger media phone interview with members of the press regarding news organizations across the country to kind of additionally speak to those key points. On May 3rd and 4th, I joined the 8 largest transit agencies across the country with members of Congress in D.C. to discuss specific issues as it relates to the nation's largest and the oldest legacy transit systems across the country. So with New York, Boston, Philly, D.C., Chicago, San Francisco, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, we as a group advocated against the President's proposed budget cuts, and specifically cuts to the Capital Investment Grant Program, as well as the proposed cuts to the Tiger program, and tried to sort of talk more positively about the benefits that transit provides to the economies of these big urban areas and big regions across the country, and how it really drives not just our local economies, but the national economy as well. So, as many of you know, the RTA is responsible for managing rider eligibility for the ADA paratransit services. As you also know, PACE is the provider of those paratransit services across the entire region. Earlier this month, we here at RTA hosted a 2-day comprehensive ADA paratransit eligibility course with the National Transit Institute to teach transit professionals how to make these important eligibility decisions for customers with disabilities applying for ADA paratransit services. We were proud to work with the ADA paratransit community this way and be able to sort of showcase even some of the work that we do here. I also want to give you a quick follow-up on the 2017 Technical Assistance Symposium that we co-hosted with CMAP. And more than 200 attendees learned about how to apply for the technical assistance and public funding programs we have. CMAP has the local technical assistance program. We have our community planning program. The application, and I updated, I think, the board just on this last month, the application period opened May 5th and will close June 29th. We have allocated over $20 million in federal, RTA, and local funds for 180 projects throughout the region through the course of just our program here. And by coordinating our 2 programs, RTA and CMAP are able to provide, I think, stronger technical assistance to a broader audience and make really clearer communication and a clearer application process across the region. I want to thank the RTA staff who worked very hard on pulling that together, making the event very successful. As I said, there were more than 200 people there, and I want to give a special shout out to Heather Tabbett and Michael Horsting and the planning group who did the lion's share of work on that. And on a slightly lighter note,
Sarah, that picture was right outside of CTA's building. It's my friend the Beaver, who and we won't put a commercial out for that, but it's the best damn coffee by a damn sight, and that's why they have the Beaver there. It's the motto of the coffee truck: best damn coffee or donuts by a damn sight. It was the Beaver out in front.
So that's it on my end.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of things to add. Jeremy's in Springfield, and I was down there the last day or so, and he deserves battle pay for being down there because there are not only so many fiscal landmines, but our borrowing bill has a controversial amendment that's been tacked on by the House. And yesterday Metra has a bill in dealing with some inflationary adjustments for some things, and one of the unions reared its head, so it's never a dull moment down there. And Jeremy's doing, and I think he's going to be down there on Memorial Day. They're in session on Memorial Day, so Jeremy's down there really doing an exceptional job under brutal circumstances. I went out to Washington in addition to the APTA press conference that we had, and it was a national press conference with my counterpart from Phoenix and also the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce. I will say at that national press conference, both the Phoenix representative and the representative of the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce warned and sort of threatened. And in fact, Susan Massal picked up on the Phoenix representative saying, we have our money in place to match the alleged $1 trillion of President Trump's proposed infrastructure plan in place. And if you all in Illinois don't have your matching monies in place, we'll gladly suck that money down to the desert in a heartbeat. And we'll take it from you in a minute. And the guy from Indianapolis, from the chamber, also reminded us that one of the first acts that Governor Holcomb, the new governor, he was Vice President Pence's lieutenant governor, did when he came into office was to pass a gas tax increase in Indiana to get them ready to be able to match whatever comes out of the Trump infrastructure plan. So one of the things that I do lay awake at night worrying about, we have not had a capital bill in Illinois in 6 years, is our ability to be able to be ready to go when Congress and the Trump administration do come up with an infrastructure plan probably later this year. Because if we're not ready, that money is going to be in Michigan, and it's going to be in San Francisco, and it's going to be in Wisconsin and in Indianapolis and in Phoenix, as they've already threatened. if we're not ready to go. So we need to get ready for that. I went out with the an interesting trip. I went with the Illinois Road Builders Association last week at their expense, which was nice. But they took me to see the members of Congress, so we went out to Washington for 2 days, met with virtually every member of Congress while we were out there for an exhausting 2 days. And it was interesting to kind of look at the faces of the members of Congress when the RTA chairman shows up with the Road Builders Association. But my point of going was that, first of all, our buses and trains run on roads and bridges built by their members, but we're all in this together. And we as a state have crumbling infrastructure, and we need to impress upon the members of Congress that we have needs. And from woman to man, both political parties, every member of our congressional delegation is for a major infrastructure bill. They may have different ideas on how we pay for it, but there was not a member of Congress, upstate or down, and we met with a lot of downstate members as well, that were not for a major restructuring and rehauling of our infrastructure system, including a lot of new revenue. And that includes not just the repatriation tax credits that you've read a lot about out of the Trump administration, but actual new money, knowing that there are not always everything available to be in a public-private partnership type of arrangement. When you're running a 130-year-old elevated system, it takes real money, not just the repatriated monies, to run that, and we might not have partners for some of those from the private sector. But to a T, every member of our congressional delegation is on board for a major infrastructure plan. And then last but not least, Wednesday night, I participated in a statewide public radio forum on the state's budget issues. And really for the first time, and I know it was repeated throughout the state because I saw a number of members of the General Assembly who told me they heard me on radio. And I always do it sheepishly because hospitals and nursing homes and people with mental illness and people with disabilities obviously have major needs with the state budget. But I did remind them that we are owed $400-some million from the state of Illinois, and that unlike vendors, we don't get paid interest. We actually have borrowing costs, as B's chart shows us month after month. Senate President John Cullerton, in his speech at Elmhurst College a month ago, talked about my comments on how we have borrowing cost. And the Senate President said, the cost of a couple of $1 million a year to borrow because the state is late in its payments of the RTA could allow us to purchase a new L car or to do improvements. So the Senate President at least understands our angst over having delayed payments and having to actually incur costs to borrow the money that we are supposed to be getting from the state. So we're out there advocating every day, and I think our folks get it. It's just finding the political solutions between the White House and the Congress, as well as the governor's office and the General Assembly to get it done. But to a letter, our members of Congress get it, and I think most of the legislative leaders in Springfield hopefully get it as well. So that's sort of where we're at, and poor Jeremy is dispatched down there to hold the fort together. Moving along these veins of advocacy is item 6A, which we have our photo there, but it's the proclamation for our annual Dump the Pump campaign, which I think is cute but necessary. And Audrey, Madam Secretary, you want to read a proclamation that's before us as item 6A before we hopefully adopt it?
Sure. Okay. Whereas June 15th, 2017 marks the 12th annual National Dump the Pump Day as a day that encourages people to ride public transportation, as public transit powers community growth by driving economic development and revitalizing neighborhoods. Whereas for every $1 invested in public transportation, wait a minute.
$4 are reinvested.
Whereas every $1 invested in public transportation generates approximately $4 in economic returns. That's better. Whereas public transportation is a $66 billion industry that puts people to work, employing more than 400,000 people nationally and 16,500 employees locally, and creating hundreds of thousands of private sector jobs. Whereas people who ride public transportation in our region can save, on average, more than $11,000 per year based on today's gas prices, the cost of owning a car, and the average unreserved parking rate. Whereas U.S. public transportation use saves 4.2 billion gallons of gas annually. Whereas public transportation use in 498 urban areas in the United States saved 865 million hours annually in travel time and 450 million gallons of fuel. And without public transportation, annual congestion costs would have risen by nearly $21 billion, from 121 to 142 billion. Whereas the RTA is participating in the 12th annual National Dump the Pump Day with the CTA, Metro Pace, and Cubic. And whereas Cubic is sponsoring free coffee for riders at 3 transit sites in the RTA region, from local coffee trucks during the morning rush hour on Dump the Pump Day as a thank you to transit riders. Now, therefore, the Regional Transportation Authority Board of Directors proclaims as follows. The RTA will join with public transportation systems across the country and participate in the 12th Annual National Dump the Pump Day on June 15th, 2017 by encouraging citizens to ride public transportation. That public transportation is an important part of our nation's and region's transportation system and provides citizens with travel options other than driving a car. That by using public transportation, people save money, help the environment, and improve regional residents' quality of life. To further declare that the RTA will participate in the 12th Annual National Dump the Pump Day by promoting transit use with CTA, Metro, Pace, and Cubic.
Great. Thank you. After that mouthful, can I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution? Director Melvin moves that we adopt the resolution, seconded by Director Anderson. And is there leave for the attendance roll call on that? Seeing no objection, leave is granted, and hopefully
15 ayes and 1 absent.
People will dump the pump. Next is item 7. I see our friend Greg Pullman is here to give us an update on the activities of the RTA Transit Access Citizens Advisory Board. Welcome, Mr. Pullman. Welcome, Greg.
Good morning.
And that beautiful companion animal.
I would unleash him right now before he pulls my arm like he usually does. Good morning, Mr. Chair, directors, RTA staff, and public. I'm here to report out on our meeting on April 17th of the TACAB and just give you a brief overview. At our meeting on April 17th, Jill Leary presented to us an overview of the RTA strategic plan. I'm not going to go into all the details of discussing what she told us because you've all heard it already, but she indicated the purpose and the legislative responsibility that RTA has and the service to provide a 5-year strategic plan. She also indicated to us that they were going to reach out to stakeholders and the public for input. I did attend, I do believe it was their first strategic planning meeting on Tuesday, and I have to commend Jill and the rest of the team for an excellent forum. I thought it was very well done, and I hopefully a lot of good information came from the participants on Tuesday. She also, Jill also gave us an update on the call for proposals for enhancing mobility opportunities for people with disabilities and seniors, which is well known as the 5310 monies. She indicated that there are 14 current projects out there and are expecting others to apply. However, the money is limited, so hopefully ongoing projects that are merited continue, and those that don't, new players are put in the game. We also had a presentation by one of our members, Scott Henning, who is with McHenry County. He is the principal transportation planner for McHenry County Transit Division. He described to us a pilot call for paper that they sent out to enhance transportation by integrating TNCs into the mix. As you probably all are aware that McHenry County is a county of well over 300,000 people with only four fixed routes. Not only do they have, so their major principal method of people getting around the community is McHenry Ride. However, you have to make reservations 1 to 7 days in advance, and they're unable to fulfill all the needs. So McHenry County Board decided to ask transportation to take a look at a new way of providing transit for seniors and people with disabilities. So they came up with this pilot project, and the bottom line is that the project would ask the rider for $4. McHenry County would subsidize using $8, and 50% of that would be covered with 5310 money. Anything above this $12 amount would be paid by the rider. Unfortunately, no TNC applied for the funds, so RTA and McHenry County are looking at rewriting the RFP to make sure, to see if they can make it more attractive. That concludes my presentation. However, I would like to commend and recognize Director Melvin, who attended our last meeting. He actually stayed for the whole meeting.
Actually talked a little bit.
Yes, he also talked. So I just wanted to recognize that he did take the time out of his busy schedule to attend our meeting. Our next meeting of the RTA, TAC, CAB is in, I do believe, July 17th. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Any questions of Greg? Director Melvin, thank you for attending that, and Jill, thank you for your guidance and help with that group as always. So, Greg, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Well, I just wanted to let you all know I just came back from overseas, and part of my trip was in Moscow. They have one heck of a subway system. Every 40 seconds to 1 minute, a train appears. impressed.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right, thanks, Greg. Item 8 is the approval of the consent items as they appear on the board agenda. And these items include 8A, the resolution certifying the financial results from the first quarter of 2017, 8B, the ordinance releasing the 2018 business plan call as Mr. Lackman presented. Are there any further discussions on that? Yes, Director Hobson.
I just want to make it clear that on 8A, we are finding the service boards that are substantially in compliance, but that the region we are finding not in compliance.
That is correct. And we are on this. I know, as I think B put it very well, and I'm going to memorize it, B, that we have, rung the bell, but we haven't actually pulled the fire alarm yet. That's a good way to put it. And, it's no secret that Director Colson, you, Director Hobson, and Director McGallis, and Director Trione have previously said, well, we need to watch what's going on here. And, it's not lost on me as the chairman. It's certainly not lost on the staff when I talk to them privately that, of your concerns. And we all have concerns here. And we will figure out how we address this in a positive manner, as we always do around here. And one thing that this morning, just listening to the news when I get up, and it's gratifying and satisfying. There's a new developer or overseer of the revitalization of Union Station that was selected. The Amtrak president is in town today. We are adding Metra electric service out of Hyde Park, and we are announcing results on the positive train control and additional cameras for safety on Metra. So our service boards and the RTA continue to move forward in a very positive fashion, even though the state is in a fiscal stalemate. With the guidance of this board, and especially great staff and great people at those service boards, we continue to ride on or move forward, even without a state budget resolution. And, I'm proud of that day in and day out. We are not stagnant here. We are constantly innovative and moving forward under really dire circumstances, at least at the state level. So can I have a motion and a second on 8A and 8B? Director McGallis moves we adopt it, seconded by Director J.D. Ross. And is there leave for the attendance roll call on these? Seeing no objection, leave is granted, and that will be
15 ayes and 1 absent.
approved. Thank you, Audrey, very much. Item 9 is the approval of the contract and expenditure items as they appear on today's board agenda, and they include an ordinance 9A authorizing the purchase of our excess liability insurance policies by the RTA for loss and financial plan and joint self-insurance funds. 9B, an ordinance authorizing a contract to conduct a very interesting Harlem Avenue, major arterial road for those of us who obviously have grown up and live in Chicago, from Toyota Park all the way up north on Harlem Avenue, one of our major corridors, and then as a new requirement, travel expenditures for board members. Leanne, you want to say anything on 9A on you went to London, I believe, or Nadine, just on our liability insurance? Does that cost, is it trend up or down on what this is costing us?
It's actually, we got a reduction in our premium costs actually a couple of years in a row now. So again, we reduced our premium, and that's actually in contrast to many other peers whose premiums are actually going up. So I think that the good work, not the work I do, the good work that Nadine and the 3 service boards do in terms of the level of detail of the presentation and data they provide to the carriers overseas, and because really U.S. markets don't really want to cover this kind of risk, so that's not unique to us. But they've done an amazing job, and actually it's about the data, the information, and then the rapport that they've developed with the underwriters who actually take on this insurance liability.
Do you think, this morning when I was listening to Metra on PTC on television, do you think we will see a reduction, and you may want to when you talk to Aon or whoever our broker is on this? I don't know, and hopefully the British insurance markets, if we're being forced with a $300 PTC mandate for safety, and we're adding now cameras as well, hopefully that will, over time, and it will only be a pittance of the mandate that PTC cost, but hopefully that would reduce our insurance premiums as well if PTC is truly a safety backup to prevent the kinds of tragedy they had in California, which drove the Congress to mandate it. I just passed that along, because when either of you talk to our insurance representatives, make sure they pound that home with the people at Lloyd's of London or wherever we procure these layers from.
So Aon is actually on the phone if you had any specific questions for Rose, and they just specialize in rail markets. But yes, we do more than pound it, and had been talking about PTC for several years with them. So they're very, and this is not just a requirement of us, and since they're focused on the rail market, the rail industry across the US, they're intimately familiar with PTC, and as a result are intimately familiar with sort of where we're at in that process and our implementation. So it has been very much a key part of our presentations.
Great. Thanks, Rose, for being on the phone, and tell those Brits to reduce our cost.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is there a motion on the three resolutions on item 9 to adopt? Director Frege moves we adopt the three items on item 9, seconded by Director Durante. Is there leave for the attendance roll call? Seeing no objection, leave is granted. Thank
15
you.
ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. And item 10 is new business. Anybody have any new business we need raised out here? Yes, Director Lewis.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. With the Springfield situation, this could be either for you or Leanne, I can't remember the cycle for the fall elections, but is there going to be major changes, do we think, in terms of the legislature given the election cycle, or is this not the year that the cycle will take place?
Yeah, it's a year away,
It's a year away.
at least.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
year. Yes, that's correct. Chairman Dillon is correct. I just have one other quick thing to point out. At your places, you each have a booklet that is, we kind of refer to it as the headline document. It's one of the ongoing steps in the strategic plan development process. And I failed to highlight the fact that our planning staff, well, not just our planning staff, but all 4 agencies' planning staffs worked pretty diligently and did a pretty 60-plus people key constituencies or stakeholder workshop earlier this week to get ongoing input on the strategic plan development. So that's sort of one other step forward on developing that plan.
Thank you. And just to the staff, these reports are phenomenal. They're very helpful. We leave these with key players. We were at WGN Radio. Susan and I were last Friday, I believe. And these not only are helpful to our riders, our taxpayers, our appointing authorities, but these are great documents. And yes, in fact, we do plan, and we plan long term here at the RTA. But the staff, you all do just tremendous work to make us look good and to let us plan day in and day out and to tell our story. So.
And they're available online, as well as we can give you additional hard copies if you wanted them.
Director Hobson.
I was going to ask if they were available in electronic form to distribute to people up in McHenry County. They're available online.
We've got that mental telepathy thing going.
Also, last month, Susan had a move brochure. Is that also available online? Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah. Super. Just a reminder that our next scheduled meeting is Thursday, June 22nd, starting with committee meetings right here at 8:30 in the morning. And if there's no further business to come before the board, Director Pang moves that we adjourn, seconded by Director Christopher Melvin. And all those in favor signify by leaving, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Triani.
Has left the conference.